Hey everyone, welcome to What the Freak. How many people are judging my shirt right now? How many people are assuming it's the symbol of magic and witchcraft? Interesting how we rush to that judgment. And yet, weren't the very words of Jesus, do not judge if you do not want to be judged with the same measure you're judging. And it's so simple. Do not judge if you do not want to be judged. Only God judges. Yet somehow we've taken on the role as judge. Unknowingly, I realized for me. And it made me want to know where it comes from. Especially growing up in a religion, a cult, and said that's the truth. And don't question. What if I hadn't? What if I hadn't questioned? That was the hell for me. The constant judgment, assuming, expectation, obligation, and oppression to live up to this ideal of perfection according to those entrusted positions of authority, including in religious leadership. And I read the Bible thoroughly multiple times because it was confusing. It's like, here's what it says, and here's what they're doing and saying. Where do our belief systems come from? What's the history behind them? We just seem to blindly believe how we grew up being taught to believe and what to believe. Yet what if we grew up in another country? Oh, I would find my way back to God. What do we think it is when we're speaking, writing, spelling? And what is it Jesus said, the word of God? I am the way, the truth, and the light, and he was known as the Word. What are words? What's spelling? And we have been listening to all these things and then worshiping while not following. And the etymology of worship is to value, to honor. Wasn't he saying to do that with ourselves and each other too? Didn't he say, we are one just as the Father and I are one? What do you think that meant? And it's interesting when I make certain points in people's own religious texts that they get pissed, as opposed to, oh, it's right there in my face. My own religious text. I'm simply pointing out something that's already there, and yet they get triggered and pissed, as opposed to questioning. Oh, why was I being this way or behaving that way? Why did I react that way? We're assuming we're right. We're assuming we have the truth and others don't, or something. Where does that come from? And why are we so rigid in our stance to believe what we think is true and real for everyone? If you choose to believe it's true and real for you, that's your choice. And it doesn't make it other people's truth. And it doesn't make them wrong that it's not your truth. It is your choice to believe that. What's more fundamental than belief? What precedes belief? Could it be energy? Could it be that power of the all that is, and that we are as well? And it is from that the beliefs create what we believe to be true. So, who have we been allowing to influence our perception of what we believe and what it means and what is being said? And why are we so afraid to question? Do you realize this symbolizes us as humans, the 5 fingers, the 5 toes, the 5, the Vitruvian man. It symbolizes that as above is so below, that it is a reflection. So whatever we're believing that to be, and us to be, and our world to be, is reflected in the physical. It's the spiritual and the physical, and how it intersects. We were made in the image of God. What do we believe that means? Well, what are the attributes and the examples that we're given that God is? God is love. Love your enemy. Love your neighbor as yourself. Do not judge if you do not want to be judged with the same measure that you're judging. Forgive if you want to be forgiven. It's pretty simple. The truth is simple. And when we can contemplate where our beliefs came from, why we believe them, then and observe and contemplate what others are believing and what their texts are saying, it starts to become a very clear picture, a much more well-rounded perspective, because multiple perspectives were contemplated and investigated. And it becomes real simple to see, fundamentally, all of them are talking about love. Being the identifying factor, being the identifying truth. And when we realize that we are creating with our belief, with our feelings, our thoughts, our words, we gain a better understanding of what it's saying, of the importance of applying the principles, not just preaching them. And we become much more at peace and calm because we grasp the simplicity and the ease of what's being said. It's simply applying it. And yet we have allowed all these other people through our life for reasons. And we're allowing so much to influence what we believe and what we're looking at and paying attention to. It's interesting that fear and survival are states of being that make it easier to comply and react out of fear and make choices out of fear, which means they're not thought out. So it's interesting that we've been told, don't question, God will punish you if you question. In my experience, it's been quite the opposite. And also the fact that worship means worth. Jesus was trying to help us understand our worth too, in being God's children, creations of God, made in the image of God. Yet we discount ourselves, and he was doing the opposite, or trying to. We're the ones that put him on a pedestal. He didn't put himself on a pedestal. He was trying to share that we are all that as well. Yet it gets so complicated because we've allowed others to tell us what it means and what it says, as opposed to seeing how simple it is. And those very belief systems are getting manipulated and used to be divisive, to create conflict, to rush to judgments versus not judging. And it's actually creating a lot more chaos and stress on ourselves by fighting it, by trying to force our beliefs on others. That's infringing on free will. And that brings about karma, according to the laws of the universe, God's laws, natural laws. It's all the energy behind the beliefs. And we're kept so distracted and so in our heads and so overwhelmed and so stressed out, so that we're coping and numbing, and we have to want to see it. We have to want to find it, desire to find it. Then it's revealed. Ask and it will be given. Seek and you shall find. I know that to be true, because I saw it and I found finding. And it's really letting go of the things that love is not, which is judgment and expectation of others to conform and comply to our way of believing that's truth, when so few have really looked into it. When we look into the Dark Ages, the Crusades, the Inquisitions, what were they doing? Weren't they forcing, threatening to believe this way, or you'll die, or you'll be killed or burned at the stake, or whatever, stoned? Pick a torture device that they created. That is how some religions were established, by force. Comply or die. Until today, it's been going on so long, it was like, oh, this is how it is. This is what's true. This is what's real. Listen to us. Don't empower us. Don't help us to feel more valuable and worthy in God's eyes. No, we've got to keep earning our love, proving our love to be worthy of it when we are innately worthy of it, simply by existing, being creations of God, regardless of belief system. We were given the gift to believe what we choose with our free will. What are we doing with that gift? What are we choosing to believe with that gift about our others and ourselves? Which really, what we believe and feel about others is a reflection of ourselves, because just like he said, we are one, just like the Father and I are one. Many are simply quit looking because there's so many stories, so many conflicting stories. It's just easier to accept where we're at, the status quo of what we've been told and taught is real and true, the path of least resistance, and just have fun. Or is it coping? Are we really having fun? Are we really happy? Are we really joyful? Are we really bearing the fruit of the Spirit? And being those things: joy, love, peace, kindness, goodness, faith, mildness, patience, self-control. Against such things there is no law. Because when we're operating in that way, what other laws are needed? When we're acting in the benefit of ourselves and others, respecting their free will, supporting, encouraging, helping them in their journey. No, instead we're judging, assuming, with not really having much information about it at all. Because we've been taught not to look. Just believe us. We're telling you. We're taking the work out of it for you. Just don't question. Trust that I am telling you the truth. And then it's like, oh, okay. Oh, we can outsource our free will, so we don't have to think for ourselves and apply it. We can just do these things so that we can go on about our coping in our life, as opposed to realizing it's fun when we realize we can choose to believe what we desire. Do we? Are we so far gone that we would rather not try? Look, ask, just keep things where they are because it's comfortable, familiar, because it might mean having to consider another choice or belief that we're either afraid to question or put in any effort to learning because we're wore out and exhausted intentionally. All of this has been done intentionally to keep us from remembering, keep us from seeing, feeling, really feeling. So I'm simply getting a perspective out there and experiences that I've had to assist others in realizing it can be so much easier. Life can be so much easier and more peaceful when we realize we get to choose our perception of what we believe to be true and real. And for me, it was simply applying what all the ascended masters and great teachers were saying. Jesus, Buddha, all the ascended masters. We're all sharing the same principles. And it got clouded with all all the rules and laws that the Pharisees and other cultures were trying to overwhelm the people with. Regardless of whether anybody else chooses to listen or not, I'm grateful. And gratitude is key. And I'm curious as to why, if people who believe in these higher powers, why is the world in the state it's in? Why are people in conflict, and why are there so many different religions? When at the core they're all saying the same thing. And it was about the principles, is about the principles. Applying them has been the challenge. Because we've been allowing others examples and what they've been saying to dictate what we read and influence what we're seeing versus something that maybe we're perhaps meant to see for our journey ourselves. That can only be revealed when we read it without all the preconceptions and ideas that others have tried to tell us they are and mean what they mean. What are we without the labels and the beliefs and the colors? Strip all that away. What are we then? Who are we then? Who are we at our core? Who are we as a person? And how are we treating others? How are we treating others? That's a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. And what we're thinking about ourselves. And affecting our choices in creation, affecting where we are right now, how we feel right now. So we're already doing it. We've just been lied to about how it works. So it's created so much chaos and conflict that we're in chaos and conflict. And it's wearing us the fuck out. And we can choose to do something about it. And if we're not, can't be that bad then, huh? Things can't be as rough as we're making them out then, huh? If we're comfortable and we're choosing to stay where we are, believe and feel what we are, that's where coming from hell has been a blessing. Because when you came from hell, you no longer fear it. And it also drove me to look for the truth of what was going on a deeper level, which brought me the greatest peace and connections and feelings of just joy and gratitude, things I never knew what they were before. I never knew what they were before because of how I grew up. So I didn't even know how I had a point of reference as to what that was to feel those things until I applied and experienced from another the application of what it means to love. Truly love. Not the love we've been taught, not conditional, transactional love. And when that's experienced, you have that faith and trust and you realize, oh, that's how it works, okay. And life becomes so much simpler and peaceful and more fun. And yet, people that believe this way are labeled as freaks. Well, have fun. Hey, if you're good and you're enjoying your life and you're having fun and you're feeling great, cool. may you go in peace. For those who may be challenged from depression or anxiety or PTSD or CPTSD, I'm simply sharing I found a simple way out. Simpler than I imagined possible. Took me a long time to find it, and once I did, abracadabra. With my words I create, and with my words I influence, and with my words I shape my perceptions, and with my beliefs I shape what I choose to see and what I choose to see in others. So how much do we really want peace? How much do we really desire to remove the stress, the worry, the doubt, the fear and free ourselves from the internal prison buried under labels that have been given to judge, that have been given to make excuses and justifications for how we feel or what the problem is. Oh, you have a condition, here, take this pill. Oh, here, that's called this. That's ADHD. It's not from too much sugar in your diet, exciting your brain cells, making you hyperactive to where you can't focus. No, that's not it. It's a condition. So you don't have to stop eating the sugar and the crap. Just take this pill. So the labels and the judgments, the expectations are all imprisoning us in our own minds and hearts. Clearly. Life can be a party. We can have fun. I've said this before. Come join the freak show. Let your freak flags fly. And let's create something better than how it's always been done. It's possible. And we've been made pretty codependent on a system that is familiar and comfortable and known, and so it's challenging to realize that there is another way, a better way, and yet free ourselves from the bind that we've been having our minds governed by. So, should you choose, ask questions, seek to understand, as opposed to simply rushing to judgment and assuming we know. Because that's causing us a lot more stress than we realize. I know from experience. Anyway, thank you for joining. Have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you all.